Well, hello, everyone, and I want to welcome you once again to the new streaming networks, WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner. And of course, I'm your host. Glad to be back with you, retired Army First Sergeant Paul Holbert. And I want to welcome all of our audience tonight, to those who may be watching live or to those who later on watch our recorded show. We appreciate your participation. And of course, it's thanks to an audience such as yourself that we've been able to make several lists of podcasts here in Northern Virginia and search engines here in Northern Virginia as people look for the show. So we really appreciate that participation by the audience. Before we get started tonight, first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Nationwide IT Services, one of our sponsors, great sponsor located here in Fairfax, Virginia. CK Park and his crew will help your business with any needs that you may have. So I definitely encourage you to reach out to them. And of course, you'll get a chance to see a little more on them later on. I also want to thank Hill and Ponton, PA, veterans disability attorneys located down in Florida. Hill and Ponton has been in business for about 30 years, and their main effort in their law firm is to assist veterans and their families, ensuring that they get the benefits that they're entitled to and are able to navigate that system to help them out. So if you're in need of them, give them a call. They also have free webinars on there to provide information. Before we get started with tonight's guest, let me just give a shout to Heroes Bridge in Warrenton, Virginia. Heroes Bridge is a veteran service organization concentrating on veterans 65 and above, trying to provide some much needed services, help, and assistance all up around the tri-state area here in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, and even outside. We have veterans that have been assisted. So I encourage you to take a look at heroesbridge.org. They're in the process of trying to build a new village there with 55 units to house veterans who are in need of a place to stay. So I encourage you to take a look, see if there's something you can do to help them out. I also want to give a shout out to Reese Across America. We now have a broadcast agreement with Reese Across America. And of course, for those of you that are not familiar, Reese Across America is that great organization that provides wreaths at the veterans and national cemeteries across the country on various holidays. And you'll see people volunteering to help lay those wreaths. They do terrific work. So there's their website, reaseacrossamerica.org. I want to say that we are proud to be part of their nationwide radio network. Every Monday afternoon at 4 p.m., you can listen to our show here recorded on their radio broadcast simply by going to their website and pushing their radio broadcast symbol. Or you can also go to iHeartRadio, Spotify, and TuneIn and search for wreaths, and it will pull it up. So we're proud to be part of that organization and providing that service as well. So tonight, I want to take a moment just to welcome back one of our previous guests. And of course, it's First Sergeant JoshuaRJohnson, or JJ, as we like to call him. And of course, JJ serves as the First Sergeant for the 127th Wing Air National Guard in Michigan. And folks, the interesting thing about being a First Sergeant, myself, a retired Army First Sergeant, is JJ's got his work cut out for him because he's a senior enlisted advisor. And I believe in your area up there, JJ, you have about 1,700 airmen under your purveyance. And JJ's responsible for the daily conduct of assistance with those airmen, their training, everything about them. And it's a busy, busy job. The other thing with JJ in his 16 years of service so far, he's also the owner and founder of Johnson Coaching and Consulting. He donates his time as well to assisting service members making transition from the military to the private sector. And he also serves as the Deputy Director of the Memorial to Memorial cycling ride in the Air Force cycling team. So he stays definitely busy. So JJ, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us again this evening.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. This is what we do. just connect with others. As first sergeants, there's always someone who could use a call and a check-in on. It's something that's near and dear to me, and I know it's you as well, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I have to tell you, and you probably say the same thing. People often ask me what the highlight of my career was when I was in the Army. And I had to say that the highlight of my career, my favorite assignment, was being a first sergeant and having that ability to interact with my soldiers every day. Sometimes it was fun, sometimes it wasn't so fun. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But yes, it was a great responsibility, but it was a great honor, I'm sure, as you feel, to serve in that capacity. And even though it can be stressful and keep you busy, it was one of those jobs that I'm sure you loved just as much as I did.
Absolutely. I wanted to be the first sergeant that I didn't have in one of my tough assignments over my career. And I learned from those who did it not the way that we actually teach in our academies, but then I also was inspired by those who did it well. And if we could be there to do the right thing when duty calls and make someone's career better, they'll remember that the Air Force took care of them. They may not remember us personally, and that's not important. What's important is that the organization shows that people come first in order to take care of our airmen, soldiers, and the sons and daughters of our nation.
So I want to ask you, though, as we get started, so what have, last time we did, you were here, we talked a little bit about what, your career. We talked about, of course, the M2M big event, which we're going to talk about here in a little while, which will definitely be interesting. But I just want to ask you, take a few minutes and share with us. So what have you been up to since the last show?
Yeah, since the last show, I thought I'd have a nice, fun, comfortable summer in Michigan, because it's my first Michigan summer. And the Air Force had different plans. And so while I was in Washington, D.C., teaching other first sergeants, of course, I got a call and ended up returning to the base and going and deploying on a non-voluntary short notice deployment to support the organization. And what was really interesting when we got over there is how many others were actually being tasked for the same thing. So our Department of Defense is showing the world that we are here, and it's an honor to be asked to serve. Our motto at our base is "We stand ready," and so I was willing to do that. The part that's really interesting is when you're working really long hours. A lot of times when you're deployed nowadays, everybody's got the mindset, okay, we're going to work hard and we're going to train and we're going to get fit while we're there, and then we'll come home looking leaner and fitter than when we started. Now they do have really good chow halls or dining facilities, so you can't. Not everybody's going to have the same ability to just stay fit, because nowadays there's so many resources.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days where you can actually get a lot of food. But the part that is interesting is we arrived and it was actually the Independence Day weekend. And so I happen to, train a lot and run a lot, and we stay fit in the military. But my particular strength out of all the running, biking, and swimming in the triathlon, running's my best. So I show up to the base, and 2 days after I get there, they have the Independence Day 5K. Just to keep the soldiers, everybody on the base motivated and have something to train for. So I line up on a start line, and I don't know how many people, but there were over 500 people I found out at this 5K. It's, remember, Middle East, 90 degrees in the evening, and the humidity is 85%.
Oh, man.
So I'm just going to see what happens, let it rip, and challenge the other competition. I end up staying right behind the fastest guy. And he was confused because he's already won 3 races in a row. So no competition. Well, I noticed his shirt. His shirt had a British logo, so he was in the Royal Air Force. It's the Independence Day race, and I'm running representing the U.S. Air Force, racing against the Royal Air Force. And for 2 miles, I was right behind him, neck and neck, and he kept looking back to see if he could drop me. And within the last mile, he looked back, and I made my move. And I took off and held the lead. Didn't look back the whole time, but I didn't hear any footsteps. I didn't hear any breathing, and finished the race for the first time in the 3 months that people are there. And a new winner has came through. Well, when I was waiting for my team and I went back to run and cheer everybody on, turns out that this guy was really frustrated that he'd lost. And the public affairs came at the finish line to ask for photos, and he wasn't going to take a photo with me. So that was how my introduction to the base was. And then we had 2 more races before we departed. So we got to face off again.
Oh, okay. So did he get a chance to get his revenge, or were you able to hold him off still?
Good question. So a couple of weeks later, there was another race, and we had, unfortunately, a sandstorm come in. So the winds were 25 miles an hour sustained, gusting above 30. And they thought about canceling it. Well, I reached out to the director of the fitness program and said, don't cancel the race. You got to keep it. We're tough. We're warriors. We're going to do this. Anyway, a lot of my airmen had been training for it, so they were motivated. And turns out he took that loss hard, and he trained really, really hard. So we get to the start line. We're both feeling good, and his team, all the Royal Air Force is cheering on him, and my people are cheering on me. But even though I gave it my all, I had gone up on a flight with my team before, seeing what they are doing during their deployment, and got really dehydrated. So I didn't have it with me. He beat me by a good 30 seconds on that race. Yeah. In the second race. But don't worry, there's a third race.
Yeah.
So now people all over the base had come and asked, are you doing the 5K? Oh yeah, I'm doing the 5K. And one of my senior enlisted leader joked, he said, you don't get to go home to America if you let him beat you. So third race, and it's a couple days before we're going to leave. And so this is my last chance. And we get to the start line. Now people are really feeling it. You've got the French racing next to us. And the spirits are high. We take off, very measured, but fast pace, running about 5:30 minute mile pace for the beginning, quarter mile to half mile. It's hot, but we don't care. The only thing we see is each other, and we're trading back and forth for first place for 2.5 miles. The cheers are coming for him from all the Royal Air Force, and the cheers are coming for me from all my brothers and sisters out there in the Air Force. And I'm happy to say the last half mile, he let out a verbal sigh that he couldn't shake me, and he doesn't out sprint at the end. He knew he couldn't hold at the end, so I took off and held the lead, finished the race, and got to celebrate with my team, and also earn the pride back for the Air Force in America.
It's always funny to hear what military folks go through on these deployments, and because you were talking about a few minutes ago too, you were talking about the guys trying to get themselves in shape, but you had the really good dining facility and things like that and that just kind of brought something back to me, being deployed over in that part of the world during Desert Storm. We were set up in a defensive perimeter around my company because I was the only platoon in our company that had armored vehicles. And, my soldiers, we had been out in the desert for almost 2 months, just out in the middle of nowhere, nothing, living out of armored vehicles. And I happened to spot through my binoculars a semi truck barreling through the desert. And when I looked at the side of the semi, I saw the big logo AFES on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed my driver and we took off in my armored vehicle. It was a 113. And we chased that semi down, and I stopped that driver. I pulled my 113 in front of the semi and got him to stop. And he came out, and I told him, I said, "Hey, man, come on." I said, "I've got soldiers over here that haven't seen a PX or nothing in months." I said, you got to at least have something in there you can sell." We talked him into it. He pulled his semi over to our platoon perimeter, and he spent about 40 minutes there pulling stuff out of boxes, and he kept track. He wrote everything down. We paid him for it. And he said, "They're going to want to kill me when I get to the base with this." But, he said, "I don't care." And it felt like, just like you, crossing those finish lines with the race, and a good feeling of a victory, that was like our victory we had over there, because you're right. You're over there with so little, almost nothing most of the time. And it's those little battles that you have to make it better, make it fun. So yeah, I can completely understand where you're coming from, but you're back now. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Those little stories in between the long days, the sleepless nights, the hot weather, and all that stuff that we do to hurry up and wait in the military. I mean, those are the fun stories.
Well, so you're back now, and I know that I mentioned your consulting business and your transition assistance that you do. So share a little bit more about that with us and what you've been doing and what you actually provide to the service members.
Yeah, happy to. What I'm finding is that, we spend a lot of years in the military building and creating and investing and educating and teaching our military members how to be a soldier, how to be an airman, Marine, sailor, and Coast Guard, and guardian for our Space Force. But we don't have a long transition plan to leave the military.
Yeah.
So there's this gap, and we have a lot of jargon, like many organizations, and all this language that brings us together, that unites the military members and service members, where you meet someone and you immediately know when they're a veteran, they speak the same language, we can connect. What I found was, when our veterans go to university and go to community colleges and they're taking their classes, that might be the first time that they're interacting with a large number of public civilians, and they're learning. They're in their teams and groups. They have to do group projects together. Well, then they're going to go on and they're going to interview with these organizations and try to get an internship, perhaps, but they're competing against 21-year-olds in engineering, the same classes that they're in. And if it's not an internship, they might be applying for their first job. So for those members, the GI Bill has been a wonderful benefit that's helped so many of our veterans, especially the post 9/11 GI Bill. And the part that was missing was how to talk and how to interview. So I got together with a bunch of our veterans at Colorado State University when we were with the Student Veterans of America, and started creating these workshops about how to teach interview skills. And then we did LinkedIn resume roasts, I called it. We're not just going to build a resume together and a LinkedIn profile together. That's really boring. But what we could do is bring a bunch of veterans in the room and use the good old public humiliation and put up so-and-so's LinkedIn profile, and then the whole room throws out comments on how to improve it. And of course, I got to feed the guys. So that's the kind of stuff that we did to teach each other about how to improve. And basically, the language is branding and network on LinkedIn. Well, when I graduated, I still wanted to use the skills. And so that's when I launched the Johnson coaching and consulting business, so that I could pass it on to more people who were, either serving and they lost their job during COVID. I was able to help clients, or fast forward now, just help people when they separate. Some people at 20 years of service, they're now looking for their first job. In the military, the first thing we do is give you the training to become a member of the force, and then the certain branch of service, basic military training. Then we give you your training for your job, and you go forth and you automatically get handed an assignment. Well, that's your job. So you're not having to network at all. In the civilian sector, you may go to university or college and you get that education. There's no job waiting for you. There's no assignment waiting for you. And so what I found was I can help them match their skill set by helping them just do the right searches, and also get to know the people that could be, the organization that you're applying to, because you got to check out the organization and make sure it's a good fit. And so that's what I've really been spending a lot of time with, helping the veterans themselves with interviewing, and then prepping them for how to communicate, so that you don't scare off the first recruiter that you land an interview with because of the jargon that we like to use that brings us together. But that's not the time to use it when you're in the interview, because you want to communicate all the leadership skills that you have, and the timeliness, the duty, the loyalty, that we are outmatched in being able to make decisions in a chaos environment. We're the person that they need. We just got to convince the recruiters, the hiring managers, to give us a chance.
So the idea behind it is to keep these veterans from leaving the military and walking into their first interview and someone asking them, well, he said, would you like to work for our organization? Hoorah, hoorah,
Any of that language, now everybody's shaking in their boots.
Yeah. Scare them to death. Now, that's actually, I think, a very worthy and useful occupation, because I remember some of my soldiers, as I was getting ready to leave the service, some of them actually came to me, because I was fortunate enough, I finished a master's degree in HR, and they approached me about helping them with resumes before I retired. I was finding out that a lot of them had no clue. So, I know that's a vital service that you're providing. So JJ, we're going to take just a short break. And when we come back on the other side, I want to talk to you about the M2M initiative and what's going on this year. So I want you to share that with our audience when we come back.
Outstanding.
All right. And for our audience out there, we'll be right back after as they used to say, a word from our sponsors.
In service of our nation, you gave everything you had. You sacrificed your comfort, your peace, and sometimes even your well-being. Over 3 decades, Hill & Ponton has helped to be a guiding light for veterans seeking their rightful disability benefits. When our heroes are in need, we are not just lawyers. We're an ally, a team who understands the struggles you faced. If you're a veteran seeking the benefits you deserve, let us stand with you on this journey. because every battle deserves a hero, and no hero should fight alone.
Living in a world filled with lunacy, it seems that stress and turmoil follow us everywhere we go. Perhaps it's gotten to the point where you wish you could turn off the distractions of daily living and have a good laugh. Well, we have a recommendation for you. Pick up a copy of The Dunce Cap, a humorous and satirical look at American society and the follies of our culture. Join the author Paul Holbert as he takes you on a trip through the nonsensical and often ridiculous practices of our everyday lives, from political correctness and our legal system to the folly of the media and our obsession with reality television. See how these and other outrageous practices of everyday people make us a perfect cast for the next slapstick sitcom. So go ahead, you know you need it. Take a frank look at the more nonsensical side of American society and see why we are prime candidates for the stool in the corner and the dunce cap that sits on top.
All right, welcome back, everyone. And we've been speaking tonight with a return guest, Air Force First Sergeant JJ Johnson. And of course, JJ, we've been talking with him a little bit about what he's been doing since his last appearance. And of course, he was also sharing with us his work as a consultant and assisting people with transition. And there it is up there. There's the email, inspirationalairman@gmail.com. That's pretty good. I like that. So it's easy to remember too. So, you know, there it is. Get in touch. You can send him a message if you want to and touch base with him about his transition work and his expertise in that area and see what he can do for you. But JJ, I'd like to kind of move on a little bit and touch on your other, among other duties here as a deputy director for the M2M and a member of the Air Force cycling team, of course. But if you would take a few minutes, because, you know, I'm sure a lot of people don't know what the M2M is. And just in a nutshell, you know, it's the big bicycle ride, 340 miles from the Outer Banks, North Carolina, to the Air Force Memorial there in Washington, D.C. So share a little bit about that. You know, it's coming up in September, next month. So tell us about it, what you guys are doing, what you're doing to promote it, and how people can help.
I'd love to. The Air Force cycling team hosts this magnificent ride, and this ride we call the Air Force, you know, Memorial to Memorial bike ride really is the culmination of all the rides throughout the year. So when we look around the United States, there's multiple recreational rides for people to get involved with, but we're coming towards the end of the year. You know, sometimes up in the northern states, it's starting to get cold by September, but September is a great month to be
on. Little bike shorts get a little windy for the winter riding, don't they?
That's for sure. Yeah, we do look funny with our Lycra on. I know we get looks when we walk in with our cycling shoes clicking into the coffee stores to warm up. But on the East Coast, September is a great month because it's the lowest month for hurricanes where we're going to be. And just imagine you've got people who have a passion for fitness, connection to the military, whether they're part of, they have served, a family member has served, their neighbor has served, and the neighbor invites them to come on this bike ride to M2M. We've got you know, really good stories, special stories of all the people that have found us. This is our fourth year, but you know, we started with just an idea of riding from the Wright Brothers Memorial in the Outer Banks, North Carolina, all the way to Washington, D.C. Could we do that? And how many days would it take? And so the planning that the volunteers have put in is tremendous to provide a safe ride with police escorts when necessary. We ride and we have stopovers in hotels for those nights. And so the first night we stop in Chesapeake. We got a wonderful hotel, a great relationship with them, and they throw us pizza parties when we arrive. And then we have the dinner night with storytelling from our wounded warriors, which means a lot to everybody when they can hear the people that they're riding with. We have 17 wounded riders coming this year. And so they're going to be able to tell their story in front of the audience, which is therapeutic for them. They think they're doing it for their own healing, but in truth, it's for all of us. Hearing those stories is a moving experience. And then we're going to have 3 hand cyclists this year for the first time ever, and 1 blind rider. All of our riders are inspiring, and I encourage anybody who, if they have the opportunity to share and donate. We are raising our money for this bike ride. Those 4 days are all going to go, the proceeds, to the Wounded Airman and Guardian fundraiser. This year, I'm proud to announce, every year we've doubled. We've actually raised $56,000 for the airmen. And so that's one of the things that this unique event has done, is pick a charity that means a lot to us, and everybody involved. And I was telling you, they're going to speak on that night at Chesapeake. The next day, day 2, we're going to ride all the way to Richmond, Virginia. And we've got a lot of good memories because we're on the Capitol Trail. So you get to take the Virginia Capitol Trail nicely into Richmond. And we've planned something special. The first year, we had a personal challenge where they ride the flat ground for the 6 miles and see how fast you can ride. This year, the second day, we're going to have a King of the Mountain challenge. See how fast you can climb the King of the Hill. And it's actually the hill that was in the UCI World Championships for cycling. So it's called the Libby Hill Climb. So we're going to see if anybody at the end of their 100-mile ride has it in for a hill climb.
So let me ask you before you continue on, because I'm sure your audience may be as curious as I am. I mean, I know that you're talking about, you got some wounded veterans riding, you got hand cyclists, but you have one blind veteran. How and I can understand the hand cyclists wounded, because I struggle with my own mobility from service connected stuff. But how do you work with the blind cyclist? I'm curious about that myself.
Yeah, so there's tandem bicycles now, and one of them can be riding, and can be supporting by pedaling, and you're still right there with them the whole ride.
Okay, so it's on a tandem bike then. Yeah. Okay. All right. And didn't want to interrupt your flow there, but there's just a curiosity there that I'm sure maybe some folks in our audience were wondering too. How are you doing that with a blind veteran taking the ride? So you mentioned that you guys have raised about $56,000 this year. And I know we put the website up there where people can continue to support you and donate to the cause. So what do you guys do with the money that you raise?
So this money can be used for Wounded Airmen and Guardians. We expanded it to the Guardians and the Space Force as well. Yeah. And it can help them find a path for themselves towards a better life. So sometimes it could be a physical or a mental disability that they incur during their time in service. And when you don't have your same network and you ended up leaving the service, whether it's shortened or you do finish your full 20 years and you're allowed to continue serving with those, illnesses, disabilities, what we found is that if they can find a way back to a sport or personal fitness goals, and they can still strive for those and overcome them, they are way better at navigating everything else back in life in their challenges. And so that's what these people will tell you, is that it helped them not focus on their limitations. And instead, they're focusing on what could they do about them. Yeah. It is powerful because we tend to see something, if it's a physical disability, and then we focus on that because that's different than, the able-bodied people. But when you look past it and you don't let it hold you back, and then you use it to inspire someone else, like, what excuses do we have when we don't have those limitations, but instead, I've been on some of these athletic events. It was a half marathon I was running, and we had hand cyclists right next to me. So inspiring that they're using that equipment to push as hard as they can we were sweating in Texas. This was at Buffalo Springs. And I'll never forget those days that I don't have any excuse. I need to push harder, right?
So well, let me ask you this. You guys are going to take that ride 340 miles from the Outer Banks, the Wright Brothers Memorial, all the way to the Air Force Memorial there at the Pentagon. So what happens the last day when you finally get to the Air Force Memorial?
That's a great question. So we're going to get together and we're going to meet and we're going to get into a formation. Oh, we all remember formations when the first sergeant yells, "Fall in!"
Yeah.
Well, this one will be a 2x2 formation, and so proud to say this year over 270 riders have registered. That'll be our biggest year yet. So now imagine all of those cyclists lined up 2x2, very long line, and then we're going to ride a nice slow pace so that everybody's together. 1 mile after we regroup, we're going to ride up to the Air Force Memorial. And when we get there, we've got there's many people in the public and the Air and Space Forces Association and many other organizations that'll be waiting, and they'll cheer on all the cyclists as they arrive. And then we'll have speakers planned that we've already invited. Very excited to connect and form a partnership with the Marine Corps Marathon. And so we invite them so that the MCM, Marine Corps Marathon, and the M2M can both celebrate the endurance and the fitness and camaraderie with our services and all the connections to the organizations. And at that ceremony, there'll be a very special coining where members, anyone who has completed both the M2M, all 4 days and all the miles, and the MCM, Marine Corps Marathon, if they have done those two things, then they could earn the very special M2M, MCM coin. And that coin will be given to you. Last time, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force even handed it to the members, and it was a very memorable event.
Yeah. Well, so you guys have something that for people who may want to participate but aren't able to travel, it's a virtual M2M. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
We know that not everybody can get the time off from their military or their employers. Not everybody can travel with family, obligations and having children. And so this year, if you aren't able to join us in person for the M2M, you can participate with a virtual M2M. And you go to our website. The shortened one to remember, it's easy to remember, is M2MRide.com.
Okay.
And also the one that's on the screen now for any of our viewers. This ride allows you to participate by recording your miles on the GPS. We have the distances on our website for each day. And then you save that to Strava. And we will consider you a full M2M rider and send you the T-shirt, so you can have the coolest T-shirt that I know and represent with the Rondell, which is getting a lot of attention, and the Air Force is using it and continues to use it in our history.
That's pretty interesting. So for those of you out there in the audience, I encourage you to take a look at that. I may go take a look at that myself just to see what you have going there. But I encourage you, the audience out there, take a look. I also encourage you, go to the website, the M2MRide.com, and take a look and see, if you're able to donate to the ride or the fundraising effort they have going or whatever you can do to help. Of course, we always encourage our audience to do so and participate if they're able to. Well, JJ, I got to tell you, man, it's kind of exciting listening to you talk about this because you're very enthusiastic about it. And, I hope to hear from you after the race and find out how you did and see how you held out. And I'm going to hold you to it too. The next time you said at the beginning of the show that you were actually here in DC doing some training. So I'm going to kind of hold you to it. The next time you're in DC, give me a holler so you and I can try to get together as well.
That'd be great. I think the power of connection means a lot to us. And when we have friends across the nation, wherever we travel, if we can connect with the veteran and say hi and take that time, it changes our whole day, right? And so if I encourage anybody out there, if you've got the time and you haven't talked to one of your friends, just like I'm grateful to talking to Paul, think about giving them a call. And if they could use someone to talk to as a coach, myself, that my friends call me the inspirational airman, I'd be happy to help.
Well, that's great. I got to tell you, it's nice to hear your enthusiasm. So I want to make sure that I want you to kind of keep me in the loop. If you have some new things coming up in the future, feel free to give me a holler and let me know, because I'd love to have you come back on again and share some more updates, some of the other initiatives you're working on, anything that's helping the veterans and the wounded veterans. We're always about trying to get that word out. So I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight and taking the time to share with us again what you guys are doing. And for the audience out there, remember that September 18th through the 21st, you'll be able to see this ride, or at least hear about it if you're not near it. Go take a look at the virtual M2M that's available and see if you can help out with the fundraising as well. And JJ, again, I want to thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Paul. My pleasure is all mine.
All right. And for our audience out there, we appreciate you taking the time. And I want to share something with you just very briefly, as we do at the end of every show. There's a big thing and a big push going on about caregiving for our veterans and disabled veterans. And the VA is starting to see more and more what the need is in that area. There's a lot of different benefits and things that the VA will help you with if you're a caregiver for a disabled veteran that really needs that additional help. So you can look at it there. You can contact the caregiver support team at your local VA facility. There's the website up there on the VA resources, caregiver support teams. Take a look at it. Go on there and find your representative, a local VA facility where you can get assistance, information, and just find out what the VA can help you with as you try to take care of your disabled veteran or someone in your family. So take a look at it, and definitely the benefit is there to help you and help those veterans. We want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And again, thank JJ for coming back. You've been watching the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner on the new streaming network.com. And as veterans, as always, we want to thank you for your service. Families, we want to thank you for your support. And we hope to see you on our next show.